So hello from my side. I will start this session introducing you to the first improvement in pdfToolbox 17, and that is related to exporting non-profile items. So probably most of you already at some point exported a item in pdfToolbox desktop, for example, to share it with a colleague or to use it in another system. And if you do that, you will always get a KFPX file. So if you export a non-profile item, meaning something that is not a prefab profile or a process plan, pdfToolbox always internally wrapped that item. So for example, here on my screenshot, I exported a fix-up. It will wrap this fix-up inside a wrapper profile. And as a result, if you import that in pdfToolbox 16 or older, you will not only import this single fix-up, but also this wrapper profile with the fix-up inside of it. And with pdfToolbox 17, we changed that behavior. So as soon as you export and import a non-profile item like a quick fix, an action, a check, fix up, and so on, in pdfToolbox 17, it will only import the single item, and that will also automatically be added to the respective category. The other improvement, and this is a super tiny UI improvement, but maybe worth mentioning because it can be helpful, is also related to importing items, but in this case inside a pre-flight profile. So as you probably know, in a pre-flight profile, if you create that or edit that, here on the screenshot you can also see it on the right side, you always get a list of all the existing fix-ups in this case that are part in your current library, and you can add that to your profile. But you are not limited to this current library here at the bottom, and that is maybe also the problem. It is somehow hidden. You have this import from library buttons, and if you click on it, pdfToolbox will open a new window where you can either search in other libraries or even search across all libraries to select a fix-up that you want to add to your profile. And this can be quite useful, for example, if you are not sure where you created the fix-up that you want to add, so you can do this global search here. And as I said, this is nothing new. You already had that in pdfToolbox 16 or older, but it was not really visible, so we changed that UI a little bit and moved the button to the top. So it is now maybe more visible, it is next to the search bar, and maybe you now use it a little bit more often and are aware that this feature exists.
Okay. Thanks, Sarah. And then we also changed something that now the sidebar is not anymore on the left-hand side, it's on the right-hand side. No, we are not accurate. Anyway, so this is about a new fix-up. Place pages on file. And for the ones to whom that sounds familiar, we already have place file on page. And what that does, it takes in some other file that pdfToolbox can convert into a PDF file, so a PDF file itself or an image, an SVG, whatsoever, an Office file, and places it on a designated spot on the currently processed PDF file. And this just works the other way around. It uses the currently processed PDF file and places it onto a template. And that maybe is easier explained if we call our main guest on stage, which is pdfToolbox 17. So most of you probably see it for the first time. And here it doesn't look very different. So we have here a PDF file with just 3 slides. And I have a fix-up here, which has the name Place Pages on File. And then let's just run it. Save the result. And now we have a new PDF file. So from our input pages, we have 3 output pages, but here in the output pages, they have all been placed into the template that is part of my fix-up here. And then if we open the configuration of it, can I zoom? Yes. So here we have the configuration. It has 2 areas. One is the source file, so that specifies the area of the currently processed PDF file that I want to place, and then it has another area where I specify the area on the template where I want to place into. And then we could also just have a look at the template. So I'm opening the folder. Here I have my template, and that is and was a template that I was using. And just for myself or for you, I have indicated the area here in green. But in order to make pdfToolbox understand what area I want to use, I needed to specify the coordinates here. And I can, as always, also use mouse selection here. So in this case, not the currently processed PDF file is open, but the template. And then in the template, I can specify the area where I want my pages, the input pages, placed into. Yeah. So, and then for the ones of you that once in a while need to create approval sheets or so where the PDF file is placed on an approval sheet and together with some other content, that was possible before using imposition and so forth. This just makes it a lot easier. And that brings us to the next slide with process plan editor improvements.
Yes, so we have 2 usability improvements inside the process plan editor. So we always try with every major release to improve the usability a little bit more. So it is easier for you to build process plans. And the first one is a new button at the bottom toolbar, the export button. And if you click on that inside the editor, you will get a Save As dialog where you can export the current process plan as a KFPX file. And the idea behind that is that if you, for example, you modify a process plan and in parallel you want to test it on an external system or in a switch workflow or the CLI, you can do that in parallel. So you can keep the editor open. You can export it whenever you want, test it, and then continue your editing. And this is not limited to the process plan editor, but is also available in Actions, in quick fixes, and I think in quick checks. And the other improvement that we added is a context menu. So if you have selected one or multiple steps in your process plan and do a right click, you can see you have now a context menu with different options. So the first one is you are able to cut, copy and paste one or multiple items. So it's easier to just copy some steps and paste it next to it to change it a little bit, for example. And this is not only available in the context menu, but also we have added the standard shortcut keys. So Command X, Command V, and Command C. So you can even use these for that. And you can also see if you have selected multiple steps, you also get the option to align your steps horizontally or vertically. So with one click, for example, you can easily tidy up your process plan alignments. Yeah, the next feature is regarding finding the right check or fix-up. We know that in pdfToolbox desktop we have a huge range of fix-up types and even more check properties, which is great because you can do a lot with it, but sometimes it can be quite challenging to find the exact one that you need for your use case. So, as you probably also know, each check or fix-up always have a name and a comment here at the bottom if you selected it that provides additional information on what the check is doing. And you also have the search bar here at the top where you can search for specific checks. But before pdfToolbox 17, this search bar was limited to the name, so it only searched the name and not the comment. And it also was important that the order of your search terms are exactly the same. And you can see here you have now this small loop icon where you can set filters to have more control on for your search. And maybe I also show you that in pdfToolbox desktop to demonstrate how useful it can be. So let me just open a check. And then maybe I can zoom in a little bit. So you can see here we have now this loop. And for example, I want to search a check that is related to ICC based. Oh no. It's okay. Let's keep it as it is, and then you can see that I can either search in a name, in the comment, or in a name and comment. And if I enable the name and comment, you can see that my results will be way more. So this is a really nice way to see what checks are really related to my search term. And the same goes with the phrase and words. So for example, if you search for text filled or filled text and you type that in, you only find the exact phrases. And if I switch to word, the chance that you get more results will be much higher. And this is not limited to checks and fix-ups. You can see that also here in the profile window, you have this option, and also in the manage libraries or inside of a pre-flight profile. Yeah, that was my demo.
There was a question.
Yeah.
For the copy and pastes, whether copy and paste works between process plans or only inside a single process plan.
Yeah, it only works inside a single process plan, if I'm not wrong. Yes. Yeah, if that's a feature request, reach out to our support team, and we are happy to include it on our list for a next release.
Vincent just said that might be difficult. But anyway, let us know. So this one is really quick, I think. We have the ability in pdfToolbox to export PDF pages to images. We now, with pdfToolbox 17, support 2 more output formats. One is very old, really old, BMP, bitmap images, 1-bit tabs, black and white. That was a feature request from one of the PDF camps, as far as I remember. And the other one is very new, WebP, developed by Google, mostly used in the internet, in Chrome. It's very fast, it's highly efficient, so you have small files with still quite good quality. As far as I know, only RGB. But yeah, for the ones of you, for instance, that work with web applications where you want to have images for display, highly recommended. And for WebP, actually for both formats, we also support import. So as is always, there are export filters that you can explicitly use in order to import files in other formats. You just input a file in another format into pdfToolbox. So if you drag a PDF file, pdfToolbox Desktop will open it, but you may now also drag a WebP image onto pdfToolbox, and pdfToolbox will open it. And then, of course, that also is all available on CLI, on command line, and in the library, not just in the switchboard.
Yes, another small improvement, but in my opinion, quite helpful, is that you have with pdfToolbox 17 a new viewing mode to display a transparency grid. And you can either go to the view menu to enable that, or you simply use the keyboard shortcut Control-T or Command-T to toggle the transparency grid on or off. And as you can see, you have that in the main window in pdfToolbox Desktop, but also in the Object Inspector and the test mode. And this makes it really easy to identify in your PDF file if you have transparency, because before that it was sometimes quite hard to tell if it's just a white object or is it transparent. And now with a simply shortcut, you can super quickly see what's in your PDF file. Yeah, the next one is more a documentation topic and not a real improvement in the software, but is also a frequently requested customer need in our support. So we thought about it and wanted to provide something that you can use directly. Of course, remapping spot colors or also remapping RGB colors to specific CMYK values and so on is nothing new. You can do that with pdfToolbox, but to set that up in a more dynamic way, it is not that easy, and it also kind of requests JavaScript. And if you don't want to do that, you can be happy because we simplified that for you and created 3 ready-to-use options to remap spot colors. So the 3 different options are, the first one is using JavaScript directly. If you're not comfortable with JavaScript, you can also, or if you want to save it in an external file, your mapping information, you can also do it via a JSON file that you pass inside the fixup. Or if you don't want to do anything with JavaScript and JSON, we also provide a even more simpler way using a CSV file. Yeah, where can you find these 3 approaches? So we created a new online article on our online documentation at help.callassoftware.com. And in there, you can find 3 downloadable KFPX files that you can just download and use it straight away. And maybe to give you a feeling what they are doing, let me show you this quickly in pdfToolbox. So I will change to this demo file, and inside this demo file we have 2 spot colors. The first one is this dark green spot color here, and then it's quite hard to see, but we have also a magenta cut contour around it here. And maybe since I mentioned it, how easy it is to enable or disable a transparency grid. Here you can see it with Command-T. It is super easy to do that. Okay, back to remapping spot colors. So here are the 3 profiles that you can download in our online documentation. And let's start maybe with the one that is using the JavaScript directly. So if I open this, you can see it has a script in it, and you don't have to take care of that. Just ignore it if you're not used to it. And what is important is the mapping information here at the top. So you can see we have a source name with the spot color that you want to remap. Then you have a destination name with the, if you want to also change the spot color name, and you have the destination color values. So in this case, I want to remap my dark green to magenta, and the cut contour I want to rename to dyeline and change it to cyan. And if I test that, you can see immediately this will happen. And it's super easy. Let me just change the... Oh, I will not do that. I will not type anything on this laptop because it's not my language. So, but it's super easy. So you can just rename it, for example, to purple and change the color values, and it will immediately adapt to it. And maybe to show you also the other two options. So the first one is the JSON file, and I need to skip this briefly. So you can see here, if I say analyze and fix, it will bring up the ask at runtime dialog, and where you can add, where you can insert your JSON file, and you can browse through it. And then I already did that, so it's in there. And then if I say OK, and I save it on the, or let's do it in test mode. I decided, yeah. So let's do it in test mode. As I said, I already did that. And if I say OK, it will also work. And this is an external JSON file. I can also show it to you in a second if you want, that you can just pass with the mapping information. And maybe also to show you that the transparency grid is also available in test mode, which is also quite nice. And the other option is the CSV file. So if you don't have scripting skills and don't want to do anything with JSON, you can also, here is my CSV file. Let me open this. So you can see it's really, really basic. So everyone can do that with the mapping information, and that you can also simply pass using this profile that you can find in our online documentation. And of course, this only maps spot colors, but if you want to, as I said, remap RGB colors to CMYK or so, you can use that as a basis and adapt it to another use case. But it is a really good example to see how you can achieve something like this.
So one question about that is whether this also works with spot colors used in images, the remap one.
Yeah, it should work, yeah, there. Yep. Another question? No?
No.
Ah, that's also mine.
They like the transparency a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, I also like it.
Me too.
Okay, so one small improvement to our Organize Pages tool. So this is a easy-to-use tool to rearrange pages, especially if you have a multi-page document. You can extract pages and create a new document out of them. You can rearrange them, and so on. So it's really helpful, but as you can see, with pdfToolbox 16 or older, you didn't have that much options. And this could be a little bit annoying if you have large documents, so documents with 500 pages or so. And if you then want to go to a specific page or want to select specific pages, scrolling and manually selecting, was not the ideal solution. So we changed that and now offer additional functionality. So you can go to a specific page, or you can even, if you want to select specific pages, use the page selector, and that you probably already know from pdfToolbox. It is quite flexible. So for example, you can add that you want to select all odd pages. If you do that, all odd pages will be selected and you can extract them to a new document, for example. Or if you want to delete a page range like page 50 to 60, you can simply type that page range in the page selector and delete them afterwards. So it comes quite handy if you have, as I said, PDF files with a lot of pages.
Okay, and then I think we're right on time because this is the, am I too tall? Is this better? Great. We have about 5 minutes left, and this is the last feature we want to talk about in this session, and then we have a lot more for later and for tomorrow, but this is a quite nice one. It's one that I like a lot as well, and it is finding empty space in a PDF file. So I have an example here. It's a bad example, as someone already pointed out to me on LinkedIn, the cut contours overlap. That's because I made this in Illustrator manually, which apparently is not a good idea, but we might have a solution for that in the second presentation. But it's an example of a nested file, and sometimes you just need to find where there are empty spaces in this document. And this may be because you want to add something to the document. Maybe I want to put a barcode somewhere, or I want to have these camera marks and so on. So how do you do that? Well, let me go back to pdfToolbox 17, and then I need my file, and I'll just play with the transparency grid again because it's so nice, and everyone seems to like it. So, but here I have my PDF file, and I now have in here in my window, I have a process plan, and I will show you what it does. So let's see if we can do that in test mode. And so here is the result. And so before I had just the nested glasses in there. And now if you count them, you'll see that there are 7 blue stars that were added. Now, these are obviously not real world camera marks, but they show up on the demo a lot nicer, and so they were a nicer demo. How does that work? Well, the key to this is that when I go to my process plan, I have a new check that I can use in here. And the check is called Identify Empty Areas. And you can use a shape definition here. I'm not even doing that. I'm just looking at all the objects on the page. And then I can look for areas that have a minimum width and height. So if I want to place camera marks, I could see what the size of this mark is, how much empty space I need. If I want to place a barcode, I might want to find a much larger area on the sheet, but you essentially tell pdfToolbox what the minimum width and height is that you're okay with. And then the other important part is that you can limit that to a certain number of areas. And so in my example, I've said I want to find 7 areas with enough space according to what I've defined here. And then the last bit is, okay, but if there are more than 7 areas, how do you want pdfToolbox to select the ones that are returned? And you can do that based on size, which means the biggest areas, empty areas, are going to be returned. So I get the top 7 areas in terms of the size. I can also look for clearance, which would be the areas where I have the most amount of distance between the mark that, well, the center of this thing and the surrounding object. So if I look at this area that is detected, where do I have the most amount of distance between my minimum width and minimum height, square or rectangle, and any other objects on the page?
And this is what I selected here and is very useful. I can look for distribution. And then it will look for areas that are as widely as possible dispersed over the page. So some that are on the left, some that are on the right, some that are on the top and the bottom, and so on. And for camera registration marks, that is probably the generically the most useful thing. So what I can do now, actually, let me go back to this check and let me run this in test mode. And when I do that in my result window, I can now show you that it gives me hits for all of these areas. And I can go look at the details of that, or I can double click on one of them. And when you double click on them, and I will double click on each one of them here. When you double click, they are highlighted on the left so that you can see where that is. This one is at the top middle of the page there. What I do in my process plan then is that I run the pre-flight check. There is a little bit of JavaScript that looks at these hits and that calculates the center of each of these hits. And then it uses that point that it found to place a mark in that point. And this I'm also doing with these JavaScript controlled fix-ups that you saw an example of for the spot color mapping, but you could also do it with, for example, a place content fix-up where you have an HTML template. So the check that is new is only to identify the areas, and then you have to decide what you want to do with that. But I think something like the example here, where you find the areas and then use place content or one of the other checks like place circle or place PDF, that is then used to put something in each of these areas. But perhaps you find another business case where you identify an area, an empty area, and then do something with that. That would work just fine. You just get the coordinates in the JavaScript and you can decide what you do with that.